Hi, everybody. Welcome to night one of our 7 nights featuring a variety of speakers for National Infertility Awareness Week. We are so excited to have you. I'm going to add Jenna. There she is. We are starting off with adoption, and I'm so excited about this. So, real briefly, as we all know, infertility affects 1 in 8. New statistics are showing it's more like 1 in 6. So, that's more than 14,000 people in North Dakota alone. Staggering statistics, if you ask me as a medical person. Everlasting Hope is here to support those, whether you're currently going through infertility or you did 20 years ago. We always need volunteers, mentors, and we know there's many of you in the future who will unfortunately experience this diagnosis as well. So we are here for anybody, no matter where you've been at, where you're at, or what's to come. We are launching a couple things this week. One of them is the 1 in 8 pledge. What that is a donation to Everlasting Hope to continue our mission. And you can find that on our website under About. And there'll be more coming about that this week. We've had some events that we had planned on having, and those are still postponed as of now. So stay tuned for where those will go as well. Also, you can hit shop on our website and get fun sweatshirts like the one I'm wearing. They're so comfortable. I could live in this one. So the merchandise is for anybody. We also have Everlasting Hope logoed information. And enough about all that. I'm excited to jump in with our speakers. So tonight we have All About You Adoptions. Coleen is speaking with us from her agency. And we have Jenna Herman, who is a brand new mom, yay, through adoption. So we will just dive right in. And I'm going to start with Coleen. We're just going to go off the cuff with this. So I want to hear all about adoption. So I know people kind of are like, when do we do this? At what stage? You know, are we ready? Are we qualified? Just super basic. How do you know? What should people look for when they're wanting to start their adoption journey?
Okay, so you just gave me about 2 hours worth of questions I could answer.
We'll have to have you back.
Well, first, just a little bit about where I've come from. Went through the infertility journey for a long time myself. Pretty much probably be my journey to parenthood. So I've been there, I've lived it. Adopted our first child when I was 24, and then 3.5 years later adopted our second. Had a failed in the middle. So have really experienced a lot of things. Then we started an adoptive parent support group after our second, and that kind of led to the beginning of All About You Adoptions. And so we founded All About You Adoptions because of a need that we saw in the adoption community. So because we had a failed, I decided, I'll work with the adoptive families, but boy, I don't want to work with birth moms because I'm still just ticked off. We had this failed and I'm still mad. And it's like, years later, but I'm still mad. So my plan was I was going to work with adoptive families. But about a year, well, not even a year, about 8 months into the agency, my 16-year-old sister-in-law had an unplanned pregnancy. And although as an agency over the last 15 years, we've not worked with very many teenagers, she was one of the teenagers that we worked with, and she chose adoption for her child. So I walked that journey with her on the side of choosing adoption for your child. And truly that changed my life at that moment. I realized what a gift I had been given by 2 amazing women who chose me to be the parent to their child. So that gives you a little bit of background of where I've come from. As an agency and as a beginning starting place, how do you know when you're ready? Like I said, for myself, I knew pretty early that this was likely going to be my journey. But my husband and I were high school sweethearts, so he pretty much knew too. So it wasn't a startling thing for us to come to the realization that this is the direction we need to go. We did a few medical things, but then decided, we didn't make tons of money. We didn't want to spend lots of money on medical procedures when we knew that there would for sure be an end result with adoption. So that was really, for us, it was as much an economic decision as anything to decide that that was going to be our path. So, what happens when you pick up the phone and decide you're going to make that phone call and you're going to start gathering information? What are some of the important things? What do you need to know? What do you want to know? What questions do you want to ask? We get a lot of email inquiry. You know, I might be interested in adopting. Can you tell me something? For us, we're not comfortable just throwing information out there through email. We want to talk to people personally. So when we get you on the phone, the things that we're going to talk about are the general process. Adoption 101. What does that look like? It starts with a home study. That's your beginning step. For our agency, you can start at any time. We don't have any specific time or specific events that you have to attend. You can start really at 3 a.m. if you want to start at 3 a.m. And we do that because everybody's at a different place at a different time. And so we don't want people, when they're ready, we don't want them to have to wait. So they can start on their own. And then in terms of how fast is the process going to go is really going to depend on how fast you want to work through it. Our process we have developed is online. So when you're in that first phase of gathering documents, getting reference letters, doing medical forms, financials, all of those good things, you can do that as quickly as you want to, or you can take time and go slowly at it. So how quickly your home study is going to get done really depends on how fast you want to gather those things. When you're in those beginning phases, there's a lot of things that we talk with you about. And even in that first inquiry call, we do talk a little bit about readiness. What has led you to feel like adoption is your next step or is your option? And we get a variety of answers to that. Sometimes people say, you know, we just feel led to adopt. We don't have infertility issues, but most of our families do. Most of our families have been down the road of infertility and have decided that adoption is the way that they want to grow their family. Another really important piece that we're going to talk about is your considerations and what you're open to. And this is one where this is a really important piece to understand. And we do a lot more training with you throughout the home study process on this as well. But this child that you are going to adopt, it is not going to be the same as a child you have given birth to. No matter how much you want it to be, no matter how much you try, this child is going to have a different experience in life than if you gave birth to him or her. Now, almost 24 years ago, when we did this the first time, it was, you know, my child was biracial. I was told, go home and take care of him the way you would any other child. There's absolutely no difference in a child you've given birth to versus this cute little brown baby. But they didn't know then what we know now. And that is absolutely not the case. You do have to be prepared very differently for an adoption. So when you're thinking about considerations, are you open to adopting a child of another race? Are you open to, think about the person who's giving birth to this child. If their life was in a perfect place, they wouldn't be choosing adoption. We're not dealing with a teenage girl who got pregnant on prom night. We're dealing with typically a 23, 24, 25-year-old mother who already has 2 or 3 children. She's struggling to provide for those children. She needs to make a plan for this baby in order to take the best care of her other children that she can and to give this baby the best life possible. That is way more of what we're dealing with than the pregnant teenager on prom night. That happens very rarely. We've placed, I think I did the numbers the other day. I think it's like 213 children, and we've had 5 teenage birth moms. Most of the time, they are in their 20s, even 30s, and they know what parenting is all about. So that's a really important thing to think about is, and talk as a couple about is what are we open to? We see a significant amount of drug exposure, whether it's marijuana, we see a lot of meth. Those are the two that we see the most. We see a little bit of alcohol, like I had some drinks before I knew I was pregnant kind of thing. We don't see a lot of ongoing alcohol use during pregnancy. But those are all things that you need to talk about as a couple. And it seems rather difficult to just throw a checklist at you and say, what are you okay with? This, and this. Because that's very different when you attach those things to a real person. So I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like when you're seeing what that situation might look like for a real person. But anyway, considerations is something important to consider. Let's see. Training. Once we have you do through all the paperwork part of the home study process, then we have you work on training. And something unique to our agency also is that we have individualized training. We don't have just blanket stuff that everybody does the same. We want you to be able to do the training that's going to be the most meaningful and the most worthwhile to you. So we have a big section on transracial parenting. So if you're planning on being open to a child of another race, we certainly want you prepared for what that's going to look like. So we have some training on that. We have training on breastfeeding an adopted child. So most people are not interested in that, but occasionally we have a few that are. So you could pick part of that as your training. But we just want it to be really super meaningful for you. Once you've got or you're just about done with the training, then we usually schedule the home visit. And remembering back to when I was doing this as being on your side of the table, I cleaned my closets, I cleaned my cupboards, I cleaned my drawers, I cleaned absolutely every square inch of my house. And the social worker came and she sat down at the table with us and we talked for a couple hours and she gets up and gets ready to go. And I said, wait a minute, you haven't looked at my closets and my cupboards yet. You have to do that. So we always tell families, please do not clean for us. I mean, in general, most homes are fine just with the lived in look. We're not there to evaluate your linen closets. We're there, we simply have to walk through your home, make sure it's safe, be able to describe it in the home study, make sure you have smoke detectors and that type of thing. It's not a home inspection. It's more of a conversation with you as a couple. Jenna, did you clean? Yes.
I know. I mean, as you're saying all these things, I spent 9 hours cleaning our house, and the social worker walked her out. I think she got everything she needed to, but we mostly sat in our, we have 2 couches when you walk in, and 9 hours, clean plate things that I don't think have been cleaned since the house was built.
So you're more like looking, like you said, for smoke detectors, maybe carbon dioxide, whatever detectors. You're looking for that general safety stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The social worker of ours commented that we just need to make sure the stairs work. We're concerned if you're missing a stair.
Okay. Okay. Very general safety stuff. Okay.
Yes. So once we come out and do that home visit, then we feel like we know you a little bit better too. Then your next step is putting together an adoptive family profile book. And this is an example of one of our families. And this is what birth moms are going to look at to choose the family that they want to adopt their child. So this is your marketing piece. And this one has, it's got lots of words, but lots of pictures and things too. So some people aren't super comfortable with putting those books together. So we'll help you if you want help. We'll let you just go and do it on your own too. No 2 books look the same. We don't require the exact same thing because we want everybody to put their own heart and soul into their books. So we'll give you all the help you need, but we're not gonna have all of them be cookie cutters of each other. When your home study is done, and like I said before, that time frame for that is totally set on how quickly you move through the process. But we feel like up until this point, you've been busy. You've had something to work on. You've had something to do. Now at this point is the hard part, is the wait, because now it's time for birth moms to look at your profile, and again, back to those considerations, you're not necessarily going to be open to all the birth moms that we would have to show your profile to. So our goal is for our clients to have a match within a year of having their home study done. That is not something we promise. That's not something we guarantee, but that is our goal. And rarely do we have to do this. So it's a goal we find that we meet most of the time. Once you're an official waiting family, then what we do is every time we have a mom who's ready to see a profile, we send you a summary of her situation. And that summary basically tells you everything we know about her. It tells you health history. It tells you her other children, if there's any special needs with her children. It tells you about birth dad, what her support is like, what prenatal care she's had, if there's been any exposures. And again, like I said, you have to think about what is going on in this girl's life that is making her choose an adoption plan. And, and just being, I guess, compassionate about that, because, we try our best to get our girls to their medical appointments and to prenatal care, but honestly, their lives are a lot of chaos. So their focus is what's going on with their children and with what they have in front of them right that moment. And so the most important thing to them might not be getting to that glucose test or getting to that doctor's appointment. I would say the majority of our girls do a pretty good job of, hitting about 75% of them. But there are some that don't. I had one girl that she went to the doctor. I think she was about 37 and a half weeks. And she told the doctor, she's like, yep, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And I'll see you when it's time to deliver this baby, because I'm not coming in every week for you just to tell me, yep, you're fine for a 5-minute appointment. So that was what she did, delivered a very healthy baby, but she only went to the doctor a couple of times throughout her pregnancy. And she made that very well known that was going to be her plan. So like I said, we show you a summary of her situation, and then you tell us if you want your profile shown or not. So by reading through that summary, like I said, with that considerations, you've checked all these boxes, but then when you get a summary about birth mom Susie, and you read all about her, you read about her hobbies, or you read about the things she likes, and you find some things you really connect with about her, but yet maybe she doesn't meet all of your considerations. So then you as a couple have to weigh, is this a situation we want to be presented for, or is this not? So Jenna, do you want to talk about how that maybe was for you in making those decisions?
Sure. I think I can definitely relate, and many people can, with what you're talking about, when you have to check boxes on what you want or don't want. And I mean, every situation's different. I sit and think about my own patients, that how do you put that I'm okay with exposure to this or that or the other thing? And so we tried to keep an open mind, and we made our profile book when we had that snowstorm back in October, you remember? October 12th, and everyone was snowed in. And then when we got profiles, it's the same thing. I mean, you want to be open to every and any child, but sometimes you wonder that, could I provide this child the best life? I mean, it's definitely a time where you feel very exposed and vulnerable. I mean, both parties do, certainly. We try to just keep an open mind, though, and a lot of times some great advice I got is, just because you're shown a profile doesn't mean you have to say yes. I mean, I want all the children, you want to help them all, but just because you're shown one, you don't have to say yes. So we were shown, I can't even tell you, maybe 3 or 4, and said yes to a couple.
Were they right around, like, due at the same time, or how does that, do you know their due date, I'm assuming, when you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, the profile, it's usually 2 pages of everything what Coleen says, everything you know about them. I mean, their age, their prenatal history, other siblings, job, health history, to what they're willing to share, what they're kind of looking for. in their preferences to what they know. I guess I don't know when particularly they're matched, but I know they try not to do it before, is it the second trimester? Is that right, Colleen? Sometimes.
For sure the second trimester, we really like to get them to 20 weeks before we show profiles, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. Like right now, I have a girl who she contacted me when she was literally 4 weeks pregnant and said, I want an adoption plan. So I've been counseling with her. I've been holding her off. I've been doing all the things as her counselor. But I think I'm thinking I'm going to get her to 16 weeks before I'm going to show her profiles. But you know, she was absolutely 100% committed at 4 weeks, but we're not comfortable matching a family that early. So, you know, 16 weeks is probably going to be the soonest. But then, you know, you have a birth mom who comes to us and she's 37 weeks, and we have a very short time to work with her. So how far along she is in her pregnancy is not a reflection of how long she's necessarily been doing counseling. So, you know, that's something to think about too. But, you know, we do a ton of counseling with our girls before we show profiles to them. And like Jenna said, you don't have to say yes. If it does not feel like a situation that's good for your family, then you say no. Because we'd much rather not show a profile to the birth mom than to have a family be chosen by her and then say they back out on her. It's, like you said, very vulnerable situation for both sides. But being, you know, stable and married perhaps, and, you know, in a place where you are ready to add to your family, you've probably got a bit more stability in your life than she does. And, you know, to have a family back out on her would be really hard. So if you say yes to having your profile shown, we are assuming you're going to say yes if she chooses you.
We have a couple questions I think fit in right now. One of them is, can a person take a training through a different agency if you aren't offered any through the one you're currently going through?
Oh, that's a good question. So am I understanding this correctly? They're working with another agency, but want to do the training of a different agency.
It sounds like that. Like, let's say they're going through someone else and perhaps they want to come do training through you. That's maybe what I'm reading that. Maybe Patricia can comment. I'll watch for that if she can clarify.
Okay.
But that's what it sounds like.
Those are situations I think we'd take on a case-by-case basis. That's not something we've done before. You know, but we have a ton of resources, and our post-adoption services resource, you know, we want to be there for our families long after they've adopted as well. So we do have those materials that we loan out on a regular basis.
Question I thought of through that: can you be working with multiple agencies, or is it one and one at a time only?
That's a really good question. We want to work with families primarily that we have done the home study for. But once they have their home study done, if they want to network and be connected to a whole bunch of other agencies for a possible placement, we are absolutely all about that. In fact, we have a networking packet that we give to our families. We have families sometimes who really, really want to be on the fast track, and our agency places anywhere between 14 and 25 placements a year. You know, so that's not a lot, but if somebody wants to be fast tracked, they can connect to some of our networking options and be having their profiles shown all over the United States. So what that means is we do your home study, you connect with those other places, and we'll still help you with, like, when you get a situation, weighing the pros and cons, helping you figure out if that's a good situation for you. And then when you come home from wherever your baby is born, North Dakota requires post placement every month, which is a little ridiculous, but that's what they do. So that means we get to come see you monthly, which isn't all bad. But that piece we would then do if you had a networking situation as well. We would do the home study and post placement, but just replacement would come from another agency. But yeah, we definitely encourage that.
It looks like she said we're currently going through another agency and they already are home study approved. She's looking to do an infant adoption in North Dakota. So could she work with you as well in addition to the company who did her home study?
Again, that's kind of on a case by case basis.
Okay. Perfect.
We would take families if we had a situation for them, but we would first look to the families that we had home studied. So,
okay. And then typically how long can the adoption process take?
Well, like I said, our goal is for our families to have a match within a year of when they had their home study done. How fast their home study gets done depends on how fast they work at it. We've had some families get it done in 3 weeks, and we've had some that, goes on a year and they're not done yet because they haven't done their side. Not because they're waiting for us, because we're waiting for them. So that's really dependent on that part.
Okay.
And I guess I can comment for us. I still, as Colleen said, I remember sending an email and talking to her for maybe a good hour. And our whole process took about a year from beginning to end. I feel like we got lucky and we're fast. We took about 6-ish months to do all the training in that because we wanted to fix our house, some minor things. Our home study was in September. We finished our book in October, and a month later we were matched, but that's fast.
Awesome.
And
Can you still be exploring infertility treatments and start the adoption process?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
There are some agencies that don't allow that, but we do. We do allow that.
And then do you see mostly open or closed adoptions? Maybe explain that more. Because I assume most people would understand that, yet I probably don't fully understand that because I never looked into it either. So that's a really good question.
Okay. Open adoption and closed adoption is like you have one on one side and the other on the other side, and then there's everything in between. So there isn't just one specific definition. An open adoption is going to be where you have ongoing contact with birth family. Super, super open would be you've exchanged phone numbers, you know where each other lives, you get together on a regular basis. That's going to be super open. Somewhere in the middle is maybe the agency stays involved and is kind of a mediator. So you send pictures and updates to the agency, we send them on to the birth family. And you can still even have visits where you get together once a year, but you still might want an agency person there. So that would be kind of that semi-open in the middle. Fully closed adoption where there's absolutely no contact, no knowledge of either party on either side almost never happens. In the history of our agency, I think we've officially on paper got like 3 that are truly closed adoptions, and them is not true. On paper it's closed, but it's not really closed anymore either. So that happens very rarely. And that's something too in the matching process that we feel is really important. Your checklist of, exposures and race and all those kinds of things, those are important things, but to me the very most important thing on that checklist is the openness, and that's something you do learn more about through your training as well, because if we have to make sure that we're meeting the needs of both parties. So if we have a family who wants an absolutely closed adoption and we have a birth mom who wants a very open adoption, we are not going to have anybody happy in that situation. And so to us, the most important matching piece is making sure that everybody's open to the same types of relationship after the fact. And we have varying degrees of that.
Excellent. That was super helpful.
And maybe I would consider our situation, I would say, is semi-open. For a while it was just through the agency, but now we have exchanged numbers and are texting and actually sharing pictures with her right now. So
that can change then too, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you just communicate with your agency when it comes to changing that?
And maybe I can talk about how it was for us. Our birth mom is a pretty, private person, and it was a lot of relationship building, and obviously the whole hospital experience is very emotional, and I mean positive. I mean, there's a lot of positive feelings. There's a lot of you want to help process, because it is a loss for the birth mom, and it's, you know, it's tough. We're happy, but we don't want to be overly. We really, I guess for us, we really bonded over that. And even in the week or two after that, I think we offered a couple times, but then she was all right with, I gave her my number, and once we got home, it was a couple weeks, but now we text pretty regularly and share pictures and videos besides what we will do through the agency.
Okay. And for the home requirement, the size of the home doesn't matter, or does matter? Like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 8 bedrooms? That doesn't matter.
It does not matter at all.
Okay. All right, back to you. The questions have stopped for now.
Okay. I know the whole conversation of open, closed, that kind of thing can be absolutely terrifying. I know for myself, when we started the adoption process, we wanted no part of this new thing called open adoption. We wanted to go to another country and have a baby so that we weren't even on the same continent as a birth parent. And that's really where we started. And then we did training, and one thing led to the next, and we had an open adoption for the first go round. Our son's birth mom is a very amazing and wonderful person, and we love her dearly. We have a beautiful relationship with her now, and it's 24 years later. With my daughter's birth mom, a little bit different situation. So we still have an open adoption, but we had the agency present when we had visits for like the first 3 years. With my son's birth mom, we could just pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, are you going to be around? Should we get together this weekend or next weekend? And it would be like that. With my daughters, it's very scheduled. We get together around her birthday time. And that's it. We get together in a public place, and that's what we're all comfortable with. So my son's birth mom, I'd invite her to my house anytime. My daughter's birth mom, not a chance. So everyone is very different, and it's something that everybody just has to figure out what's going to feel right. So even the same adoptive parents can have very different open adoptions. And so that's what you have to figure out what you're comfortable with that particular mom. So don't be scared about the open adoption thing. Your adoption professionals should walk that journey with you and help you with it every step of the way. We always explain it like it's a blind date. You know that this event is going to be important, that this could be a very important person in your life, but you don't get married on a blind date. So, you know, it takes time to build that relationship. And Jenna, you guys, your relationship is still new and fresh too. And you've been really open already. But you know, there is those stages of building a relationship that takes lots of time. Like I said, with ours, both of them took a long time to develop a relationship. Even the first one, just, you know, there's things that can feel scary, and just make sure you're talking with your adoption professionals about that, because they're going to be able to provide good advice about what is comfortable and what isn't. And if something isn't comfortable, then that's okay too. It doesn't mean you have to say yes to everything by any means. Jenna, you mentioned hospital time. Everybody thinks about hospital time as this wonderful, beautiful, I'm getting this baby and all my dreams are coming true. But honestly, hospital time is hard, very hard, because a lot of times you're spending a lot of time by yourself and you don't know what's going on in that other room. And when we don't know what's going on, our minds tend to think the worst. So is she changing her mind? What's going on over there? Is this happening? Is that happening? And we do our best to keep everybody updated and keep you in the loop. But really, a mom who chooses adoption has to do it twice. She does it first when she makes her initial plan, when she's still pregnant. She does it the second time when she gives birth to that baby. So that's why we're there, making sure that she's having her emotional needs met, that she's being taken care of, and that things are going the way she wants them to, so that there is the greatest chance that her adoption plan will be something that she's going to stick with. So there's a lot of sitting on pins and needles. There's a lot of emotion for you because you have longed for this baby for so long. You have wanted this child for such a long time. But like Jenna said, it is also very bittersweet because you know that with your joy comes her hurt.
Jenna, what did that look like? Were you notified when she went into labor, or how does that on your end work?
I think every experience is different. In our particular case, we were notified when she was going to be induced. So we drove down the day before. And yeah, then she was induced and we spent about 48 hours at the hospital. And the staff was kind enough to give us a room. I mean, that again can vary. It's different in every situation, I suppose. And
do moms ever allow the adoptive parents in the room during labor? Is that
yeah,
anything?
I mean, sometimes we were very lucky where the birth mom gave me the other armband, kind of for the nursery and that. So when our baby wasn't with her, she was with us. I mean, maybe if she had treatments or wanted a nap or something. So she was very kind. I mean, especially in those 48 hours, I mean, in the hospital are really hers too. And I mean, we just feel very fortunate and grateful that she included us in that experience.
Okay.
And there are times when an adoptive mom or an adoptive couple is allowed into the delivery room. That is a choice that the birth mom makes. Usually about 4 weeks before her due date, we sit down and do a hospital plan. That plan 99% of the time does not go the way we intended it to. There's always changes to a hospital plan. So we tell families, even though you may have been invited to be in this delivery room, you still might not be. So don't get your heart set on it. Or the opposite has happened too. There's been a plan that you're not going to be in the delivery room, and all of a sudden you get the opportunity to be there. So that happens too.
Yeah, that actually, I mean, we were in the delivery room, but I wasn't sure she wanted to see us before she was induced, and we were not going to. And then we got a phone call at, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning that she wanted to see us before she was induced. So off we went.
Are adoption requirements different with one child versus twins? And it's coming across twins rare.
Twins are rare, yes. I think we've had three sets of twins in 15 years. So yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Our twin situations were all kind of unique. So are they wondering like in terms of fees, or is that what they're?
I'll wait for Abby to clarify.
Okay. It's usually, I mean, it's the same process. It's going to depend on paperwork wise. If we would tend to go with whatever our attorney recommends for if we do the paperwork together as one petition or separate for each child separately. Some cases you would do it one way, some cases you would do it another. And there's just some different circumstances that would determine that. But generally, it's going to be one process. There might be a little bit of additional cost for doing additional sets of paperwork, but it's not like if you have twins, it's double the cost. That's not the case.
Okay. So you're at the hospital, and you had said earlier that doesn't always mean you're going to walk out with a baby. And so what does that time frame look like to maybe where you can like breathe a little lighter that is complete?
Well, just leaving the hospital doesn't make it complete. Every state has different laws regarding when termination of parental rights can happen. Jenna was very, very lucky. She was in a 48-hour state. So mom could consent at 48 hours and it's irrevocable. That's extremely rare. That was just an amazing experience. Some states, like the majority of our placements are in South Dakota. So we have to actually take girls to court here. So that's going to be anywhere from 7 days to 30 days. And mom could change her mind mom or dad could change their mind about their adoption plan at any time during that phase. In North Dakota, they can waive the 10-day right to change their mind. But again, until the court happens for termination of parental rights, it's still not a done deal. And in North Dakota, depending on what county, it varies a great deal how quickly we can get into court because, as you know, court systems are backed up quite a bit in many of the counties, especially on the western side. So that, I've got to plug in my phone here so I don't, hang on, go sideways for a second.
So Jenna, yours was quick. It sounds like 48 hours.
Yeah.
And then the paperwork was done. I'm assuming you just stayed there until that was complete.
So, and Colleen can talk about this a little bit, because we were not in North Dakota, then you have to stay in a given state for as long as it takes to get the ICPC paperwork done, and it's interstate compact for the placement of children. I keep wanting to say it's the protection of children, but so after he was born, then and the TPR was signed, we stayed in an extended stay hotel. Fully expecting to stay there for a couple weeks because birth mom, it was on a Thursday. We went home on Saturday, and Monday was a federal holiday. So we thought it was going to be a long time, but again, we got very lucky, and our paperwork was done by that Friday, which again, I think is not common. Not common. Average, I think, it's 7 to 10 business days. Usually average is 8, but ours was done within however many that is 4. So.
Okay. And then you said something clean along the lines of like you stay in touch with them afterwards. So you follow them. North Dakota sounded like monthly.
Yes. And what Jenna was talking about with ICPC process, we tell families to plan for 7 to 10 business days in the state where their child is born. It can go faster than that. We hope it goes faster than that, but that's what we tell people to plan on, barring major disasters. Like one of our families got stuck in, I think they were in Tennessee, and there was a flood. And so there was they were there 21 days because they could not get the packet to the state office to have it approved. But that was a while ago before they were able to email everything, which we can do now. So that helps it a little bit too. But yes, post-placement supervision. This is monthly. We come, we call it the hold the baby visit. Although we really don't come and hold the baby because we want you holding baby to be bonding and attaching and those kinds of things. So we come and we look at the baby, but more it's just there to be a support for you, to answer any questions that you have, to just, how's it going? What's happening? Is your family being accepting? What are your struggles? Because I'll tell you what, probably the thing that if my husband would walk in here at this moment, he would tell you that when you adopt a child, you have waited so long for that baby. You have been through so much. By the time you have that kiddo, that you feel like you have to be perfect. And you don't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. You are a parent just like everybody else. And so you have struggles like everybody has struggles. And don't feel like you have to shoulder those struggles on your own, because everybody has them. And just know that there is support. And that's why when we do our post-placement visits, we talk about those things so that so that you don't feel alone, so that you do feel like you have support for the times that aren't as easy. Like if you have a baby that doesn't sleep, or, you know, that's up 5 times a night, or, you know, things like that, things that all new parents experience, but then you also have those additional things because of the adoption. And we want to make sure that you're supported through all of that.
I think we maybe lost Tara for a second.
Fraser, what else do people want to know, Jenna?
Well, I was looking at the comments just because, do you work with Minnesota residents?
No, we are not licensed in Minnesota.
Okay. And then I see, is your agency basically a one-stop shop to where you can do every step needed through adoption with you?
Yep, we can do it all. Yep.
You know, maybe, I guess I'm thinking, what are some common misconceptions you think about adoption that people who maybe are starting?
I think
I have no idea what
one of
just
the most
happened.
common is
That's okay.
that,
We're good.
did I freeze?
No, okay. Keep going. Keep talking.
Yeah. Well, I read the couple questions for her that were in the chat box, and I just asked, like, what maybe the people starting common misconceptions about adoption. I mean, I can talk about now that I've been through the process of what I think, but I'm always interested in hearing what other people have to say.
So you answered the Minnesota. Do you work with Minnesota? Awesome.
And the one-stop shop.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can't hear Tara, so Jenna,
Oh.
you're gonna have to tell me.
Okay, just basically the questions were answered.
Okay.
So going through this process, not that I thought it'd be easy, but certainly, as I had said before, I mean, you have to open the books. I mean, I'm a pretty private person. Opening, your finances, your home, your life. Making this book. I like to take pictures, but I didn't think I had 50 plus pictures of myself. You know, just from things that were that interesting of people, but you know, we found them. And I would say, not a lot of agencies will have you write a letter, and All About You does that, but it's not that they necessarily deliver the letter. It helps with your profile book, and that was probably the hardest thing for me to write, because how do you write it to someone you don't know? And it is like that blind date. And I guess the best piece of advice that we got from a lot of people who have gone through adoption, my husband's adopted, so that's partially what helped lead us to this. And I've been married 10 years and have done some fertility stuff too. So yes, that was part of it. But we wrote everything according to kind of the birth mom that we were hoping to connect with. The type, I mean, it's hard to be, you're kind of generic, but who we would hope would be a birth mom that would pick us. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but to be genuine and not try to be someone you're not, I guess, is the best. We like to, you know, cook breakfast on the weekends, but we're not necessarily big, I don't know, I can't even think of a great example, but like going to tons of rock concerts. I mean, we go to a few, but that's something that I didn't want to say we like to do when we don't.
There's a question about what's involved as far as finance requirements for finances.
Finances. I don't know. Can you hear Tara?
Kind of.
Okay.
Basically, you just have to be able to afford to parent a child. We have you tell us what your income is and show us what your income is, what your general monthly expenses are. Basically just show us what your budget is. And the piece that we have to have the proof of is just proof of income. So just so we know you can provide for the child.
Excellent. These are good questions. What did we miss? What is something that you think, Jenna, as a new parent, in looking back at your overall experience, that people should really be aware of or ask?
I think when Colleen talked about the waiting, I mean, the first 6 months and when you do have something to do, you're kind of, working towards this goal. And then once the home study is done, and once our profile book was done, there's very little effort in waiting. But when you're used to things just kind of happening and moving forward at a certain point, and when it's just maybe nothing for weeks or months or however long, that can be hard. There's a little effort in that, but you kind of just feel like, well, I should be doing something else. What else can I do? So it's keep yourself busy. And I would say, if you have a vacation planned, take that vacation, continue to do your hobbies and live your life. Don't put everything on hold necessarily waiting for that phone call, but you can adapt.
Excellent. There's a question that came up, and what's the estimated cost to adoptive parents?
Okay, the adoption process, the first fee is the home study fee. And for us, with our home study fee is $32.50. That includes the home study, helping with all of the, showing your profile as many times as it takes to get you chosen. And if you're doing the networking stuff, helping with all of that. So we charge the home study at the fee at the beginning because we're providing that service. Another thing unique to our agency is that we don't charge any other fees until you are actually matched with a birth mom. So then when you are, because we don't want to hold your money hostage, because if all of a sudden you have, the neighbor down the street wants an adoption plan and wants to place the baby with you, we don't want to have a whole bunch of your money tied up and make you unable to pursue that option. So when you match with a birth mom of ours, then you pay a $3,000 agency fee. And then 30 days prior to birth mom's due date, you pay the remainder of the agency fee. Then the other two costs that are going to be variable in it, number one is going to be the legals, which are going to range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 because we're licensed in 4 states and our attorneys charge us different amounts in each state for handling some of that legal stuff. And the other piece is going to be birth parent living expenses. So if I have a mom who's in prison and she doesn't need anything, there's not going to be a whole lot of living expenses. But if I have a mom who comes to me and she's, 16 weeks pregnant, she's homeless, she's living on the streets, and we got to help her find a place to live to have a safe and healthy pregnancy, then there's going to be some living expense costs. So we tell families between your agency fee, legals, and birth parent living expenses to plan for anywhere from $28,000 to about $32,000. That's where I'd say 95% of our situations fall into that range.
Okay. Very, very good information.
And that budget, you also know when you see the summary of that birth mom. So you always know that ahead of time.
Okay. Was there anything else, Queen, that we should have added on your end that you had down? Like you said, we could probably talk for 2 hours and we could do a whole nother, right? I mean, we've got really good questions going here. So this is a good topic. Yeah. So we can always do more later.
I think one other thing that I would want to add is our post-adoption support, because adoption is a lifelong journey. It is not a journey just to a baby in your arms. This is a part of who you are as a family. It's a part of who your child is for the rest of his or her life. And so post-adoption services is really important. North Dakota does a great job regionally of providing services. But as an agency, we have one specifically for our families that we do. We have what we call Beyond Gotcha Day once a year. This year, who knows? We probably won't get to have it, but hopefully we do at some point. And this is an educational day. Parents can come talk about what's going on. They can either already have kids, or maybe they're still in the waiting process. And so it's networking, it's education. They can talk. And we also have activities for the kids. So the kids are in a separate place. so that parents can talk about things that we don't necessarily want our kiddos to hear about. So that's a really neat event. We also have a picnic every year. So families, that's just totally social networking. There's no formal educational anything with that. But, we can also hook people up with a mentor if they want to mentor a family. Sometimes we have adoptive families or pre-adoptive families that want to talk to birth moms who have chosen adoption for their child in the past. So those are all support things that we provide that we feel are really important.
That's excellent. Does every state require birth parent living expenses?
I believe it is legal in all states. Laws are different in each state. And what we do with our 4 states, we follow the same, we follow the laws of our strictest state. So our strictest state is South Dakota. And so what we do is anything that we assist a birth mom with, we pay directly. So if it's rent, we pay the rent directly to the landlord. If it's an electric bill, we pay it directly to the electric company. And every single expense, every single receipt, it can be shown to a judge. All of the expenses have to be approved. So it can only be clothing, food, shelter, phone, and medical. That's it. That's the only allowable expenses.
Okay. If there are any more questions, you guys can put them in the comments. You can always, I linked the website up there earlier. Coleen is with All About You Adoptions, and Jenna was a client through them. Jenna, do you have baby nearby? Do we get to see?
Give me just a second. I'm going to stop my webcam. I'll grab her.
Okay. How does the process work if the birth mom is a teen mom?
It works the same way. Regardless of her age, she can make whatever decision she wants. Now, clearly, if her parents are adamantly against it, it'll be a lot harder, but otherwise it's the same. She does not have to have her parents sign anything. As a parent, she can make whatever decision she wants.
Okay. Baby. I'm happy about going on camera.
I'm coming. She's
camera shy.
Well, it's time to eat, of course.
Oh,
Here, so let's see, where are we? Trying to turn the right way. I'm having difficulty.
Bottle.
Yeah. But here's baby Sophia.
Hi.
Who's messy? Who's messy right now? Oh, I know.
Bottle.
Looking away from your bottle. I'm sorry. So she's no, she's fine.
Yeah.
So she is 2 months old.
I see your pretty eyes.
Yeah. So
Jenna, share whatever you're comfortable, but how is that transition like from not being pregnant to bam, here's a baby in your hands? Like, what is that all?
I mean, that's probably
our conversation.
I mean, it's weird. That's about the only. I mean, it's such a joy, but suddenly, I mean, when we left the hospital and my husband and I were in Target trying to buy stuff, we were just kind of looked at each other like, what did we do? I mean, it's great. It's really great.
Right. Overwhelming, I would assume.
Yeah. So I suppose not having given birth to, I suppose there's no physical recovery, with adoption, with having your own child. So that part is, I guess, nothing too, but it's all of the wonderful things. And just, my camera's not. Okay.
There she is.
There you go. And so, yeah, this is Sophia.
Hi, Sophia. You are adorable. You got a lot of congratulations.
Yeah.
Abby's heart exploded. What a cutie. Well, thank you both for sharing. I think we'll have to do another follow-up to this. And you guys can contact Coleen at any time.
And really, if anyone has any questions about adoption too, I'm happy to share, or just, fertility in general. I mean, we've all been there.
Right. And I think, Coleen, I think something you mentioned earlier, your journey you went through infertility. So I think it's nice for people to understand you're not just an agency. Like you've been down the same road that all these hopeful moms have been down. You get it. Like you get all the feelings, you get the treatments, you get all of that. So I think that's just important for us to share too. That you've been down our roads too.
And that's the other thing about my staff. Most of my staff have as well. Almost all of my staff have personal adoption experience. Either they're adoptive moms or they're adopted themselves or they're a member of a birth family. Everybody comes with personal experience. That's why our tagline on our website is, it's not our job, it's our life, because we really do all live adoption in some way.
Right. There was a question that came up. If the birth mom decides to keep the baby, does any of the living expenses get reimbursed back to those that were hoping to adopt that baby?
The living expenses are not, because that would be considered coercion to ask for that money back. So
not reimbursable. Okay. Okay. Well, I will take Thank you guys. Bye, Sophia.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.